The massive alien warship blocked out Earth's sun as it hung above New York City. Commander James stood in the United Nations emergency bunker, watching the holographic display with grim determination. Around him, world leaders gathered in tense silence. The Craxan Empire's message had been simple and brutal: submit or face annihilation. They had conquered 1,000 worlds across the galaxy, and Earth was just another primitive planet to add to their collection. The alien commander, Lord Vex, appeared on every screen across the planet. His reptilian features twisted in what might have been a smile. Humans of Earth, the translation device converted his words into every language simultaneously. You have 72 hours to surrender. Your technology is primitive. Your weapons are toys. We have destroyed civilizations that span entire star systems. You are insects before us. The transmission showed footage of other worlds burning. Cities turned to glass. Entire species kneeling in chains. The Craxan Empire's might was undeniable. Their ships numbered in the thousands, each one capable of destroying continents. President Miller turned to her advisors. Options? General Park stepped forward. Madam President, our nuclear arsenal won't even scratch their shields. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. So we just give up? Senator Roberts slammed his fist on the table. 300 years of human progress, and we just bow down? Commander James had been quiet until now. He was a veteran of every major conflict in the past 20 years. He knew war. He knew sacrifice. But more importantly, he knew humanity. We fight, James said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. Commander, you just heard the general. We can't win, the president said. James walked to the window, looking up at the alien ship. They're making a mistake. A big one. What mistake? General Park asked. They think we're like the others. They think we'll calculate the odds and surrender. They don't know what we are. James turned back to face them. Every species they've conquered gave up when faced with superior force. But humans? We've never been reasonable about survival. He pulled up historical footage on the screen. Thermopylae. 300 Greeks against 1,000,000 Persians. The Alamo. 189 defenders against thousands. Stalingrad, Warsaw, Vietnam, Afghanistan. Again and again, humans have looked at impossible odds and said, come and take it. But those were against other humans, Senator Roberts protested. Exactly. James smiled grimly. We've been practicing on each other for 10,000 years. We've perfected warfare not because we're strong, but because we're stubborn. We're the species that split the atom just to win a war. We went to the moon not because it was easy, but because it was hard. President Miller stood up. What are you proposing? We don't surrender. We make them bleed for every inch of Earth. We show them what happens when you corner humanity. James brought up tactical displays. They have superior technology, yes, but they're complacent. They expect fear. They expect submission. They don't expect anger. It's suicide, General Park said. Maybe, James agreed. But I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. And I bet when we start fighting back, when they see us using our own cities as weapons, when they realize we'd rather burn our own world than hand it over, they'll learn something about humans. What's that? President Miller asked. That we're the scariest species in the galaxy, not because we're strong or advanced, but because we're absolutely insane when it comes to freedom. The room fell silent. Then, one by one, heads began to nod. President Miller straightened her shoulders. Send a message to Lord Vex. What should it say? The communications officer asked. She looked at James, then at the alien ship above. Tell him Earth chooses war. Tell him we'll see him in hell. As the message went out, James allowed himself a small smile. The Craxan Empire had conquered peaceful. Species. Logical species. Reasonable species. They had never faced humanity's wrath. They were about to learn why humans were different. Why humans were dangerous. The war for Earth was about to begin. The Kraxan fleet commander, Admiral Drex, laughed when he received Earth's response. In his 1,000 years of conquest, no primitive species had ever refused the Empire's ultimatum. He turned to his second-in-command, Captain Tor. The humans chose death. How amusing, Drex said, his scales shifting to show amusement. Prepare. The bombardment will make an example of their capital cities. But as the Kraxan fighters descended toward Earth's atmosphere, something unexpected happened. Every satellite in Earth's orbit suddenly activated, not as communication devices, but as weapons. The humans had spent the last 72 hours converting their entire satellite network into a massive minefield. Captain Lisa Chun watched from her position at Space Command. Detonation in 3.2.1. Thousands of satellites exploded simultaneously, creating a devastating cloud of shrapnel traveling at orbital velocity. The Kraxan fighters' shields were designed for energy weapons, not primitive kinetic impacts. Dozens of alien craft were torn apart in seconds. Admiral Drex watched in disbelief as his advanced fighters were destroyed by such a crude tactic. Impossible. They're using their own technology against us? But that was just the beginning. On the ground, Major Tom Wilson coordinated the next phase. Every major city had been evacuated to underground bunkers in those 72 hours. Now, as Kraxan dropships descended, they found empty streets, empty buildings, but not empty of threats. Light them up, Wilson ordered. The humans had turned their cities into massive traps, buildings rigged with explosives, gas mains ready to rupture, chemical plants set to release toxic clouds. As the Kraxan ground forces landed, entire city blocks exploded. The aliens had expected to fight soldiers. They hadn't expected the humans to weaponize their own infrastructure. In Moscow, Russian forces led by Colonel Ivan had filled the abandoned metro tunnels with natural gas. When Kraxan troops entered to search for hiding humans, Ivan gave the order. The resulting explosion collapsed 6 city blocks and eliminated an entire Kraxan battalion. Lord Vex watched the casualties mount from his command ship. This is madness. They're destroying their own cities. His science officer, Dr. Krell, analyzed the data. Lord Vex, the humans appear to value victory over survival. They're willing to sacrifice everything. No species does that. Vex snarled, but the evidence was mounting. In Tokyo, Japanese forces led by Captain Yuki had turned the city's industrial district into a death trap. When Kraxan forces entered, they released industrial acids and toxic chemicals, creating clouds that ate through the aliens' armor. The humans wore primitive gas masks and fought through their own poison. In London, British forces under Colonel Smith had flooded the Thames and turned the entire riverside into an electrified killing field. Kraxan troops fell by the hundreds as millions of volts coursed through the water, but the real surprise came from humanity's civilian population. In rural Texas, farmer Bill Johnson and his neighbors had turned their tractors into improvised tanks. They couldn't penetrate Kraxan armor, but they could ram landing craft and disrupt supply lines. In the Amazon, local tribes used the jungle itself as a weapon, leading Kraxan patrols into preset traps and poisonous terrain that they advanced. Scanners couldn't detect. In Australia, the locals had released every venomous creature they could find into areas where Kraxan forces were stationed. The aliens' medical systems couldn't handle the variety of Earth's natural toxins. Admiral Drex received report after report of unconventional attacks. Humans using construction equipment as battering rams. Children throwing Molotov cocktails. elderly people driving vehicles packed with explosives into Kraxan positions. "Sir," Captain Tor reported, "we've lost more troops in 6 hours than in our last 10 conquests combined." "How?" Drex demanded. "Their weapons are primitive." Dr. Krell pulled up his analysis. "Sir, the humans aren't fighting to win. They're fighting to hurt us. Every human seems willing to die just to kill one of our soldiers. The mathematical efficiency is actually impressive." On Earth, Commander James coordinated the global resistance from his bunker. Status report. "We've lost New York, Beijing, and Paris," General Park reported. "But we've killed over 10,000 Kraxan troops." "Our casualties?" 3 million and climbing. James nodded grimly. "Acceptable. They expected us to surrender after the first wave. Instead, we're making them pay for every inch." He turned to President Miller. "Phase 2? She nodded. "Do it." James smiled coldly. Time to show them what humanity really means. The first day of the invasion had ended. The Kraxan Empire had expected quick submission. Instead, they had found a species that would rather die than kneel. And this was just the beginning. Admiral Drex stood before the tactical display, his scales flushed purple with rage. 3 days into the invasion, and the Kraxan Empire had lost more soldiers conquering Earth than in their previous 50 campaigns combined. 40,000 dead. Captain Tor reported. "The humans have destroyed 30% of our ground forces by sacrificing millions of their own." Drex slammed his clawed fist on the command console. "What species does this?" Dr. Krell studied the data streams. "Admiral, I'm detecting unusual activity. The humans are. They're launching something." On Earth, humanity played its next card. Every space agency, every private space company had worked together for one purpose. Not to build weapons, but to turn their spacecraft into them. Commander James watched as hundreds of rockets launched simultaneously from sites around the globe. Operation David Stone is go. The rockets weren't carrying weapons. They were carrying industrial mining equipment, construction materials, and one more thing, volunteers. 5,000 humans who knew they wouldn't return. Captain Mike Roberts led the space mission. He and his volunteers had one job: board the Kraxan ships and cause chaos from within. It was a suicide mission, and every volunteer knew it. "Remember," Roberts told his team as their modified spacecraft approached the Kraxan fleet, "we're not trying to win. We're trying to make them remember Earth." The Kraxan ships detected the incoming craft and prepared to destroy them. But the humans did something unexpected. They detonated their rockets early, creating a massive debris field. Hidden within that debris were the real threats. Small pods carrying human soldiers. The pods were primitive, barely more than metal coffins, with basic thrusters. The Kraxan shields, designed to stop energy weapons and large projectiles, didn't register them as threats. Hundreds of pods attached to the hulls of Kraxan vessels. Lieutenant Anna Taylor was first to breach. Using mining equipment, her team cut through the outer hull of a Kraxan destroyer. The aliens had never considered that someone would be insane enough to assault a spaceship with construction tools. Inside the ships, chaos erupted. The humans didn't try to take control or disable systems. They simply destroyed everything they could reach. They released chemical fires that consumed oxygen. They ruptured coolant lines. They threw themselves into engine cores. On the command ship, Lord Vex received emergency reports. 3 destroyers have lost power. Internal sabotage. Impossible. Vex roared. Our ships are impregnable. But the humans had found the one weakness in Kraxan strategy. The Empire had never faced an enemy willing to use suicide tactics on such a scale. Back on Earth, the resistance evolved. Scientists had analyzed captured Kraxan technology and found a critical weakness. The aliens' personal shields operated on a specific frequency. It had taken humanity's best minds working around the clock, but they had found a way to disrupt it. Dr. Patel broadcast the solution globally. Set all radio. Transmitters to frequency 27.3 gigahertz. Maximum power. Across the planet, every radio tower, every cell phone tower, every broadcasting station switched to the same frequency. The result was a planet-wide disruption field. Cracks in personal shields flickered and failed. In Berlin, German forces led by Captain Mueller launched their counterattack. Without shields, the Kraxan soldiers were vulnerable to conventional weapons. Machine guns that had been useless now cut through alien armor. In Cairo, Egyptian forces discovered that sand and dust clogged Kraxan equipment. They created massive dust storms using industrial fans and vehicles, blinding alien sensors and choking their air filters. The tide was turning, but at a terrible cost. Admiral Drex watched his tactical display in disbelief. We're losing ships to boarders. Ground forces report shield failures. How are primitives doing this? Dr. Krell had been studying human history during the invasion. Admiral, I believe I understand. The humans have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. We forced them to evolve, to adapt. They're using our invasion as a catalyst for innovation. Then we end this now, Drex decided. Prepare the planet killer. We'll destroy Earth entirely. But even as he gave the order, reports came in of more human attacks. Nuclear submarines had surfaced beneath landed Kraxan vessels and detonated their reactors. Commercial aircraft had been turned into guided missiles. Even the International Space Station had been deliberately crashed into a Kraxan cruiser. Lord Vex arrived on the bridge. Admiral, the Empire is watching. Other species are seeing this resistance. If we use the planet killer, they'll see that we couldn't conquer primitives. Drex finished. They'll see that humans made us afraid. The Kraxan Empire faced a choice: destroy Earth and admit defeat, or continue fighting a species that grew more dangerous with each passing hour. Either way, humanity had already won something. They had shown the galaxy that Earth would not kneel. Asterisk, the planet killer weapon powered up, its massive barrel pointing at Earth like the finger of death. Admiral Drex had made his choice. If he couldn't conquer humanity, he would erase it. But Commander James had anticipated this moment. Execute Protocol Omega, he ordered. Across Earth, hidden bunkers opened. Humanity's last secret revealed itself. For 70 years, ever since first contact with alien signals, Earth's governments had been preparing. Not openly, but in secret. They had built something impossible. A magnetic railgun that used the Earth's own magnetic field as a power source. Dr. Park had designed it. We only get one shot, she told James. The recoil will cause earthquakes globally. Millions will die just from firing it. Do it, James said without hesitation. The weapon was not sophisticated. It was brutal, primitive, and absolutely human. A 20-kilometer-long railgun built into the Earth's crust, designed to fire a projectile of compressed nuclear warheads. At near-light speed. As the planet killer charged, Earth fired first. The projectile tore through space, a streak of human defiance. The Kraxan shields, still calibrated for energy weapons, couldn't stop the kinetic impact. The projectile punched through the planet killer's hull and detonated inside. The explosion was visible from Earth's surface. A new star born from humanity's rage. Lord Vex watched his ultimate weapon die. Impossible. They shouldn't have such technology. But that was just the beginning of humanity's final gambit. Captain Davis, one of the space boarders still alive on a Kraxan ship, received his final orders. He and 12 others had survived the initial assault and had been hiding in the ventilation systems. Now they emerged for one last mission, For Earth, Davis whispered, as he and his team stormed the ship's reactor core. They didn't try to disable it safely. They simply destroyed everything, causing a cascade failure. The ship's own power became its destruction. More Kraxan vessels began exploding from within. The humans who had boarded them had been waiting, hiding, planning. They struck simultaneously, a coordinated suicide attack that took out 15 capital ships. On Earth, the global resistance reached its peak. In India, Captain Singh led a charge of 10,000 volunteers directly at a Kraxan stronghold. They had no advanced weapons, just stolen alien equipment and human determination. They overran the position through sheer numbers, accepting massive casualties to capture Kraxan technology. In Brazil, the Amazon tribes had united for the first time in history. They used their knowledge of biological warfare, spreading diseases that Kraxan medical technology couldn't quickly adapt to. The aliens from a sterile world had no immunity to Earth's microscopic defenders. But the real shock came from humanity's children. In Japan, teenager groups had been secretly training. They had studied every piece of captured Kraxan tech, and they understood it better than their adult counterparts. They hacked into Kraxan communication systems using modified gaming computers, spreading confusion and false orders. A 15-year-old boy named Tim from Ohio discovered that Kraxan vehicles used a standard diagnostic frequency. He broadcast a signal that caused every Kraxan vehicle in North America to run continuous diagnostics, effectively paralyzing their mechanized forces. Admiral Drex received report after report of system failures, surprise attacks, and unconventional warfare. His forces were winning every direct battle, but losing the war. "Sir," Captain Tor reported, voice shaking, "we've lost 60% of our ground forces. 20 capital ships destroyed. The humans... They keep coming. They don't stop." "What? About their casualties?" Drex demanded. "Estimated at 50 million dead. But sir... They're still fighting. Cities we destroyed are being repopulated with fighters. Children are taking up arms. They're using their dead as biological weapons, contaminating areas with diseased corpses." Dr. Krell interrupted. "Admiral, I'm detecting massive energy. Readings from Earth's polar regions." The screen showed humanity's most desperate weapon. They had turned the polar ice caps into massive bombs, using nuclear charges to create directed tsunamis. Coastal Kraxan positions were about to be hit with walls of water carrying radioactive ice. "They're destroying their own planet to fight us," Krell said in amazement. "The ecological damage will last centuries." Lord Vex finally understood. They don't care about winning. They don't care about surviving. They only care that we lose. James, monitoring from his bunker, smiled grimly as he watched Kraxan forces retreat from the incoming tsunamis. Half of Earth's coastal cities would be destroyed, but so would the alien positions. "Sir," General Park said quietly, "we can't sustain this. We're running out of people." "We don't need to sustain it," James replied. "We just need to make them never want to come back." The fourth day of the invasion ended with the Kraxan Empire questioning everything they knew about warfare. Lord Vex stood in the emergency council chamber aboard his flagship, facing the holographic projections of the Empire's highest command. The ancient rulers of 1,000 conquered worlds stared at him in disbelief. "You're requesting a full retreat?" Emperor Zorn's projection flickered with rage. "The Kraxan Empire does not retreat from primitives." "With respect, Emperor," Vex said carefully, "these are not ordinary primitives. We've lost a third of the invasion fleet. 80,000 soldiers dead. The humans have shown they will destroy their own world rather than surrender." Admiral Drex presented the data. "They've detonated nuclear weapons in their own cities to eliminate our forces. They've poisoned their water supplies. They've released every biological weapon, they possess into their own atmosphere. In another week, Earth will be uninhabitable even for them. Then we've won, Emperor Zorn said. No, Dr. Krell interjected. We've created something worse. The surviving humans have gained access to our technology. They're learning, adapting. They've already reverse-engineered our shield systems. If we continue, if we push them to complete extinction, the survivors will become something dangerous. Explain. The Emperor demanded. Krell brought up his analysis. Every species we've conquered surrendered when faced with superior force. It's logical, it preserves life, but humans ... They have a concept called mutually assured destruction they developed. It for their own wars. They would rather everyone die than accept defeat. On Earth, Commander James received an unexpected transmission. It was Lord Vex requesting direct communication. Commander James, Vex began, his reptilian features showing what might have been respect. You have fought ... remarkably. We're just getting started, James replied, blood dripping from a wound on his forehead. We've converted our nuclear power plants into bombs. We're ready to crack the planet's crust itself. Your empire can rule over our ashes. You would destroy your own world? To keep it free? Yes. James's eyes were steel. Every human who dies fighting you becomes a symbol. Every child knows that we didn't kneel. In 1,000 years, if even, one human survives, they'll remember that Earth stood against the Kraxan Empire and made you bleed. Vex was silent for a moment. What if I offered terms? Complete withdrawal. All Kraxan forces leave the solar system. You never return. And in exchange? We don't hunt you down. James smiled coldly. Because that's what we'll do if you stay. We'll reverse engineer every piece of technology you've left behind. We'll build ships. And one day, maybe not for 100 years, maybe not for 1,000, but one day, humans will come for the Kraxan Empire, and will remember what you did here. Lord Vex looked at the tactical display showing Earth. Major cities in ruins. Oceans poisoned. Atmosphere contaminated. But still, humans fought. Still, they resisted. Every Kraxan soldier on the ground reported the same thing. The humans wouldn't stop coming back in Australia. Civilians had formed suicide squads, elderly volunteers, who would walk into Kraxan camps carrying hidden explosives in Russia. Children as young as 10 were fighting with captured alien weapons in Africa. Tribes had united for the first time in history, sharing chemical weapon formulas that turned the soil itself toxic to Kraxan biology. The Empire Council watched all of this in growing horror. They're insane, Emperor Zorn finally said. No, Dr. Krell corrected. They're human. And that might be worse. Admiral Drex made the final argument. Emperor, we could win. We could glass the planet. But the cost, and the message it would send. Every species in the galaxy will see that it took the entire Kraxan Empire to destroy one primitive world. And they'll see that even then, the humans made us pay a price we've never paid before. And if we leave, we tell the galaxy that Earth wasn't worth the cost. We maintain our reputation. Emperor Zorn considered. Then, for the first time in the Empire's history, he gave an order that would echo through the galaxy. Withdraw all forces. Mark the Sol system as quarantined. No Kraxan vessel is to enter human space. As the Kraxan fleet began to retreat, Commander, Jane stood with the other survivors, watching the alien ships disappear into the void. President Miller, her face aged years in just days, asked, "Did we win?" James looked at the ruined Earth, at the billions dead, at the poisoned skies. We survived, and they'll never come back. They'll tell others about Earth, about humans. What will they say? James smiled grimly. That here there be monsters. The Kraxan Empire came for submission. They left with a warning for the galaxy. Humanity was not to be conquered. Earth stood free. Asterisk.